Okay. Okay, this is the second video. So let's move on to the topic. Next topic, the Bretton Woods system and the International Monetary Fund. So lessons from the Great Depression is the countries remained on the gold standard for longer suffered from deflation and economic stagflation because they could not conduct flexible monetary policies. So recall that under the gold standard, the monetary policy for the domestic economy was unable to conduct. So countries that remained the gold standard for longer suffered from large deflation and economic stagflation. So because they could not conduct flexible monetary policies. So we need to create an international monetary system that allows for more flexible policies, like flexible monetary policy. So other lessons from the Great Depression was countries prioritized their domestic economies and imposed trade barriers, resulting in stagflation of the global economy as a whole. So the country tends to increase on welfare by reducing other economies' benefit by imposing large tariffs. And such countries tend to be a trade war. So we need to stabilize the global economy by achieving domestic and external equilibrium through the power of international cooperation. So we need to cooperate each other in the international in terms of internationality. Okay. So systems, international monetary systems that allows for more flexible policies and also facilitate international cooperation is the Bretton Woods systems. So Bretton Woods systems was developed to combine so Bretton Woods system was developed to overcome the weakness of gold standards. So here is the overview of international monetary systems. So we ended gold standard. So gold standard was ended, and then we need to move on to the Bretton Woods system. So in July 1944, representatives of 44 countries gathered in Bretton Woods, New Hampshire, USA, to draft and sign the International Monetary Fund Agreement, so IMF agreement. So IMF agreement was designed an international monetary system that supports full employment and price stability while allowing countries to achieve external equilibrium without restricting international trade. So this is a desired monetary system. So in the Bretton Woods systems, there are two characteristics. First one is fixed rate against the US dollar. So the exchange rate was fixed against the US dollar. For example, yen was fixed at 360 yen to dollar. And also, the second characteristics is that an unchanged dollar price for gold. So 1 ounce of gold 1 ounce is equal to the $35. So this is fixed price. So unchanged dollar price for gold. Okay, so these two things are the characteristics of Bretton Woods system. The countries can other countries except for the US can sell dollars to the US Federal Reserve and get gold at the official rate, gold exchange rate standard. So this is gold exchange standard, as I shown before. So this is gold exchange standard. So dollar is an international currency. So therefore, dollar is freely convertible to other currencies. So we can exchange dollar to yen and dollar to Chinese yuan and also Korean won. So if we need to convert yen to Chinese yuan, then we convert first we convert dollar and then convert dollar to yuan. So this dollar is international currency. So let's check the IMF agreements. Okay, IMF agreements determine, in the IMF agreement, fixed exchange rate against the dollar was signed as promised. Okay. Recall that monetary trilemma. So monetary policy for the domestic economy is limited in the fixed exchange rate system. So therefore, monetary policy has to be for foreign exchange intervention only. So monetary policy for the foreign exchange intervention is okay, but monetary policy for the domestic economy is limited. Second, US must fix dollars to gold. So therefore, the US cannot conduct monetary policy freely like other countries. So this is why so the result is, now I explain the result based on an example. So suppose that large rise in the US monetary supply. So then dollar holdings by foreign central banks increased. And also demand to convert dollars to gold increases. So then gold price also increases. Gold price. Okay, so there are two same words. Sorry. Gold price increases, then difficult to convert at $35 per ounce of US dollar. So then large US monetary supply increases the demand to convert dollars to gold, then gold price increases, and then so the US becomes difficult to convert at $35 per ounce, the fixed price level. So they cannot exchange the fixed exchange rate, fixed price level. So there are the two agreements. The third one is a pool of financial resources in currency and gold by IMF member countries. So if the countries in the IMF member countries suffer huge capital outflow, then they can borrow from these financial resources, a pool of financial resources. Okay, so this pool of financial resources in currency and gold is for lending to countries that need it. Fourth one is exchange rate parity can be changed with the IMF's consent. So parity means fixed level. So exchange rate fixed level can be changed with the IMF's consent. So, but this change cannot be freely. So this change can be implemented only when the economy is in fundamental disequilibrium. So what is fundamental disequilibrium? So fundamental disequilibrium is in a situation where demand for the country's products permanently Sorry, okay. Sorry, so fundamental disequilibrium is a situation where demand for the country's products permanently decreases, and without devaluation, the country faces long-term unemployment and external debt. Or in a situation where demand for the country's product permanently improves, and without rises, the country faces long-term long-term boom and climbs, external climbs. Okay, this is a fundamental disequilibrium. So exchange rate parity change can be conducted only when the economy is in fundamental disequilibrium. So currencies at this area, currencies become convertible to each other. So greater financial integration occur. Then international capital flow increases. For example, domestic importers accelerate payments to foreign suppliers. So which means purchasing foreign assets or delay payments, which means borrowing. So in such transactions increase the international capital flows. Many countries initially limit capital movement to achieve external equilibrium. So recall that external equilibrium is that BOP set to a fixed level. But if the capital movements are large, then the BOP or current account changes. So this change leads to the external. So this change moves from external equilibrium. So therefore, countries initially limit capital movements to achieve external equilibrium. But gradually, capital movement increases as trade increases. So therefore, the countries cannot limit the capital movement. So higher private capital flows cause current account fluctuations. For example, countries with huge current account deficits suffers possibility of fundamental imbalance or fundamental disequilibrium. Sorry, this is disequilibrium. So the countries with huge current account deficits suffer possibility of fundamental disequilibrium. So investors now consider that could this ultimately lead to a devaluation of the exchange rate? So recall that IMF agreement. If the country suffered fundamental disequilibrium, then the country can change the exchange rate parity. So therefore, investors consider that could this ultimately lead to a devaluation of the exchange rate? So the investors considers the possibility of exchange parity change. So when devaluation occurs, the holders of currency lose money because currency value declines. The holders become anxious about the devaluation and buy other currencies. So this is called speculation. So investors become anxious about the devaluation. So they fly to other countries, other currencies. So this is speculation. So currency declines its value. The central bank buys currency to support it. But the currency declines keep declining to the point that the central bank can no longer support it. Then actual devaluation occur, and this is called the balance of payment crisis. So important thing is that more devaluation will occur as investors become more anxious. So if investors become more anxious about the future devaluation, the actual devaluation will occur at first space. So actual devaluation will occur at first place as investors become more anxious about the future devaluation. So there are several balance of payment crises at that time. In early 1964, Britain recorded a remarkable trade deficit. Then intermittent speculation against the pound was happened in November 1967, devaluation of the pound occurred actually. In 1969, French speculative capital outflow and German speculative capital inflow occurred. Then French franc devaluation and Deutschmark appreciation occurred. Then which causes the eventual collapse of the Bretton Woods system. Okay, so balance of payment crisis eventually causes the collapse of Bretton Woods system. Now move on to the analyzing policy options for reaching internal external balance in the next video.